All right, so we're gonna go over how to do the pattern and texture project. Okay, so obviously at first you want to do some sketches, and I'd advise you to do, somewhere about 5 to 6 sketches. Sometimes you can get it pretty easily after a few of them, but even if you find something you like, again, you can keep sketching it and sketching it until you end up with something that is a lot more polished. So I just have a couple of them here. This one, I was playing around with it. I didn't really like how it was coming out. Kind of liking this one. And so, I think I'll sketch it one more time, maybe make 1 or 2 changes. Okay, and like I said, I would, if I were you as students, I would definitely sketch this out more just so that you get a few more trial runs at it. But again, for the sake of the demo, we're going to call this design almost finished. Okay. All right. So remember, you're working in a square because the actual even full size square you're going to make, I would just do 4x4. Okay. You can always go a little bigger, a little smaller, but 4-inch by 4-inch square is pretty good. So for your thumbnails, obviously, they don't need to be that size, but you want to make sure you're doing a square. Okay, because then you can get the design figured out here, and then when you go to enlarge it into a 4x4, then obviously you're gonna, it's gonna be a pretty easy transfer. Okay, so one thing you want to think about, and I started sketching out a bit on here, is that this thing is going to extend into itself. So it basically like you're creating a tile or like a piece of wallpaper. And so the idea is if you keep, adding more of the squares, so like you get one here, you put another one there, here, of course in the corners, and it gives you this giant pattern. So you want the thing to continue into itself. And so again, meaning that, here you can say I had triangles on the corners. Well, if I put another one right next to it, then of course, and then, and I drew this actually the wrong way. But it, so then it would go like this. Yeah, there we go. It would go something like this. Okay, so again, this thing will continue into itself and actually create more of like this star shape than like a diamond shape. Okay, because this will line up with, again, the part of the square from the top, and then, or really just think about it this way. Whatever's on the bottom should line up with the top. Whatever's on the left should line up with the right, because again, you're gonna repaste another one of these squares here. So then this would now be over here. Again, like y'all have another square over here. This will be on this side, and so on and so on. And then of course, even the corners. Okay, so you really want this to connect into itself. Okay. And I use the term in the lecture, interwoven pattern. So you want things that kind of weave and connect into each other even more, more so. And if you notice again with this triangle I put in the corner, I'm more or less going to get like this star shape when I line up 4 of them. So I've got 1, I put another one here, and there's 3, there's 4. I'll end up with sort of this star shape in the corners. That gets created by just doing this and repeating it in all 4. Okay, so like I said, I'll sketch it out one more time. So I do kind of like having this little, it's just a sideways square, but it looks like a diamond. I like having that shape in the middle. Okay, maybe I'll make the circle a little bit bigger this time. Okay, and then too, what I like doing is I like having overlapping shapes. So maybe we'll try it this way, where that little triangle, again, sort of points out here. And we'll see. And remember, if you don't like the design, like if you're working on something, so I don't know if I'm really liking this one, you don't have to continue with it. So let's do one more. I'm not going to bring those triangles out as far. I do like the idea of the circle being a little bit bigger. Again, here's going to be my little diamond shape. I remember on the sketches, you know, your thumbnails, that's what these are, preliminary sketches. You really don't have to, you know, sketch them perfectly. Like my intention is the diamond goes like right into the corner, but again, I'm just drawing for now, so I don't really need it to be like right in the corner right away. Okay, there's one over there, and then here. Okay, and so then I drew sort of this square in there. I might actually do something like this where it curves out. Again, just because like, I just want to play around with it a bit. So you can see again, it sort of curves out. Okay, so I think that's all the like big shapes I want in there. And so now I can just kind of darken this up. And so when you're doing your pattern project, you do want to have, you know, have some things in there basically like bigger shapes, you know, some elements in there that stand out a little bit more, okay? They'll let the viewer, you know, whoever's looking at it, whether it's you or classmates or, you know, I don't know, you make wallpaper. You want some things to be dominant, and you want that so that whoever's looking at it has some things to grab their attention. Okay, so if all your shapes are too tiny, this thing's not going to look very good. Okay, because then it starts looking like an all-over texture, and it doesn't have that repetition that we talked about in the lecture. Okay, so yeah, I kind of like that. Okay, and so then something else you can do, and it sort of ends up looking a little bit like tic-tac-toe. So again, the idea is that there would be like a whole nother square, and again, a whole nother square, and so on. You don't only have to draw out the whole square, but what you can do is kind of redraw what you've got here. So like, again, this corner would now be down here because there's the original, or there's one copy of it, and then you put another one down here. So then whatever's over here, it's going to be over here, okay? And again, whatever is over here would be down there, okay? But the other way you want to think of it too, again, you know, there's a copy, a copy, a copy. So whatever is here is going to be right there. And that's what I'm saying. Like you'll end up, you know, my design will give me sort of this star shape, okay? And again, whatever is here, right? Now the copy is going to be down here. That's what's going to end up over here, okay? So I don't have everything lined up very well, but you can see, I'm getting this little star shape, and then again, that's what's going to end up here. It's like a four-sided star. Okay, and so then again, I'd have something that, you know, these will definitely pop out. Okay, and then also what's going to happen, and this is where I said like the whole idea of it being interwoven, is that, you know, I'll sort of have this little weird curve, and that's why I kind of like the idea of there being a little bit of a curve there. Actually, they should go this way. Yep, there we go. Okay, because these, you know, you'll get this implied line, like they'll kind of connect into each other. You know, not, you know, literally, but you'll see this, your eye will follow the curve, and it'll sort of create these little misshapen circles. Okay, and that's why I kind of like the idea of that. But anyways, so obviously you can't copy my design. You want to come up with your own. The idea is you do some sketches. You know, again, I didn't like that one. I was liking that one. I tried to change something. I ended up not liking the change. And then I made, you know, one little change here. And then I just sketched out a little bit of, again, you know, say we photocopy the tile, put another one, photocopy, put another one down here, and so on and so on. It can give me an idea of with these little sketches of like what I'm going to have happening. You know, what kind of repetition or what kind of other, you know, mystery little shapes will be created by me repeating the pattern over and over. Okay, so then what you want to do, like I said, you want to have some big shapes in there, some things that stand out more, because that'll help, you know, grab the viewer's eye and it creates the idea of a pattern. But you also want to do is you want to have a balance of light and dark and texture. So you want to have some things that are solid black. If you look at the better examples that I showed in the slideshow, they have some, you know, shapes that are black, some shapes that are white, and then there's some mixture of texture in there. And the texture just gives you basically like your shades of gray. So, you know, I kind of like the idea of these triangles being solid black, because then, again, as it's repeated, I'll get this black star that is definitely going to pop out. Okay, and so that means I don't want to go too dark with the rest of the square. So if I do, then everything just gets, again, it gets sort of washed out or flattened out. So I could maybe make that center part, or actually maybe let's not even do that. I could probably get away with, no, actually I think I'm gonna do that. See, it's okay to change your mind and think out loud. I can do that. And so then maybe in here, and you know, again, it's up to you to come up with different textures, but maybe I'll just do some kind of little lines here, you know. Again, on my, you know, finished one, I can always come up with some more interesting pattern. And then maybe, you know, maybe the inside of this is a little more, you know, like a light gray. It's maybe more like a 20 or 30% gray. So I'll fill it in with some kind of texture. You can always come up with something kind of cool. I'm just sort of filling it in with some little scribbles right now, just so I get a sense of what, you know, like a 20 or 30% gray looks. I'll fill in the circle a little more. Okay. Sorry, and there's my Homer Simpson clock again. And I kind of like this space around here being white, and then maybe this is going to be, or maybe, you know, again, it's something I'd have to play around with. So actually maybe this will be, again, like a middle gray or a lighter gray. Just that little space that's sort of the background surrounding that little diamond. And then this would be white, okay? And that's where, you know, again, in my other little sketches, I can maybe draw this a little bit bigger and then start playing around with the different textures and figure out, you know, what's going to be pure white, what's going to be pure black, and then what's going to have some gray made out of the texture, okay? Because you are trying to balance black, white, and texture. And again, you know, have some things that stand out, that really grab your eye. Because remember, that's the difference between just some kind of all-over texture versus, you know, creating an actual pattern is, you know, some kind of repetitious form or element that, you know, really stands out against the rest of it. Okay, so again, you know, if I was a student, I'd play around with this with some more. I'd probably sketch it out 2 or 3 more times, or at least one more time, a little bit larger, and try to get some of that figured out. And you don't need to see that in the demo. Okay, so, sorry, I dropped part of my ruler. So, now what you want to do, let's say this was completely done. My design was completely done. I had everything where I wanted it. Okay, so now I'm going to draw it out full scale. And so when you draw it out full scale, you're going to want to, let me line this up where I want it to go. Actually, let's do that there so I can line it up. You can do this part in your sketchbook because you're just going to make photocopies, but I probably would do it on bristle board. And really the reason I say bristle board is because the bristle board's a little bit thicker, and it will, especially if you fill things in with marker, then it won't bleed through the paper as easily. So I'm just gonna go like right there. That's actually pretty good. Okay, and I think I have one of these lines crooked. Yep, so I'm gonna have to redraw that bottom line a little bit. Well, there's one of these lines I'll have to redraw, so. Yeah, and let's see, so it's gonna be right there. And so again, this bottom one, I didn't draw it as straight as I should have, or one of the other ones I probably didn't draw as straight as I should have, but that's okay. So now I can just connect these two right there. And again, I don't really need to measure it as much. Okay, so it's 4 by 4 by 4. So again, you can see there's, because this would be the one that would be my finished product, the one I'm gonna draw and polish up and make look awesome and all clean and perfect, and then make photocopies of. Okay, so 4 by 4, right? 4, 4, 4. Okay, there you go. So this is where plotting some things in is going to help you. So if I need to get this design on here, okay. So what I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to find the midpoint. So in my case, it's just, right at 2. And this is where I say, like, if you make your square exactly 4 by 4, it's okay if you want to go a little larger, a little bigger. But if you can make it exactly 4 by 4, then this is what helps you make the rest of this so much easier. Is that I'm trying to find the midpoint, so I just put a little notch at 2 inches. Okay, 2 inches there, and then it's like I had a circle in the middle. Okay, I could kind of, in the middle it doesn't matter as much, so I could just kind of freehand it. And be like, all right, that looks like kind of like dead center. Okay, I could use a compass. There are circle templates. There's all kinds of stuff. Okay, but if I really want to get all technical about it, I'd be like, yeah, you know what? I'm gonna have it go out like a 1/2 inch, so that should be the end right there, and then this would be the end right there. Okay, we'll put this right there in the center. And I'm just lining it up in a spot where I had the inch right there, and then I was able to measure out a 1/2 inch, and so then, see now I can, and I can still freehand it. I could use a compass. I don't feel like I'm drawing a very good circle here, but I know how far I need to get this circle to go out. So that way it's exactly the same size all the way around. And then there we go. Okay, and again, the idea was this was going to be solid black. I'm just going to fill it in with a pencil now. We can worry about the ink part later. Okay, so I had a diamond in the sketch, right? Well, look at that. This is what's awesome, since I put, these right at 2 inches in the middle, right? I can use those lines to help me guide my little diamond. And again, depending on what you come up with your design, you might have to do a little more measuring, a little more, finding the center, or plot out some more lines. Again, depending on what you draw. But for what I'm doing, let's see, I don't think I drew that one very well. And again, some of this you'll find trying to work under a camera doesn't exactly let you see as well as you'd like. These days I'll have to come up with a better setup and do a real YouTube channel. Okay, so there. And so see, now I've got that diamond like perfectly lined up in the middle. Okay. And so then what I had was essentially, and we'll kind of cover that part up right there. I have these little triangles poking out of the corner. Okay, so I want them to go into about right there. Okay, and so as far as like how, how high up or how far over to make these, I can just use my ruler and be like, hey, I kind of like the idea of them coming up like an inch. So I'll put a little notch there. Again, like I just lined it up with the 8, but again, an inch is just 7, so I don't really need to always use 0. As long as there's something there that will, I can measure exactly over like how much I need. That's gonna work. There we go. That part where the ruler's sitting a little flatter. Okay, so let's see. And then we'll get the sides. And again, I'm just bringing it over like an inch. Like here, I brought it down an inch. Bring it up there, about this over. Okay, so when I go to draw my triangles, that's what I'm gonna want. That's how far I'm gonna want them to go in. And so let's just say that's kind of the spot I want it to go over. Okay, so what I could do is be like, that's actually like a 1/2 inch in. So I should be able to do it this way. Let's see if this works. Yeah, so I brought it over a 1/2 inch and I'm bringing it down a 1/2 inch. Okay, so there's that one. And then again from here, that's a 1/2 inch over. Half inch down is actually here, so then really the dot's right there. Okay. So anyways, I just kind of plotted out so I could get the distance that I want, and that way they're all the same. So there's there, and again from that same spot, we are going to go over like right there. Okay. And I could have done another way. I could have like measured down and put a line, and there's different ways to approach this. I just chose to do it this way. The idea is just getting consistency. And yeah, it's for the demo. I didn't draw it exactly up as high as I need to, but it's okay. It's for the demo. So if I wasn't drawing under the camera, I would probably do a better job. And so again, let's come up this way. Yep, okay, so then I need to come up 1/2 inch from here. And again, I came up 1/2 inch, I went over 1/2 inch, and that worked. And so this one actually might be off a little bit. Yep, that's because I think I had the ruler crooked. So really like right there's the dot, that one's good. Okay, and so I'm not gonna do a ton more. And not because I, necessarily want to finish. Not that I'm trying to, get out of drawing this, but again, I don't want this video to be like an hour, so I'm only going to a certain point. Okay, so again, you can see there my triangles, and then I drew these, and so yeah, again, remember, I would fill this in with a marker actually, because I think I want this solid black. And so we'll fill this in. But that's what you want to keep doing. You want to have to keep measuring things. So it does get a little bit meticulous, and you get a little OCD about it, or you have to. But if you don't, things won't line up. You see, right now, the good thing is since I came over the same distance, these two will line up. So when I photocopy one and I put it below, like this is going to line up exactly with that. Again, because I'm essentially, I made sure all my marks were the same, and I went over an inch. Let's see again, I went over an inch. Because I need this to line up with that. I need this to line up with that. This has to line up with this one. This has to line up with that. This has to line up with that. This has to line up with that. Otherwise, it doesn't connect into itself correctly. Okay, so the curvy part right here. Okay, how do you do that, and how do you get it to look exactly right? Well, here, I'll bring it up more. Okay, so I'm just going to use the 4 to start with. If you notice, and again, I can use whatever measurement I want, but if I come up, from here where I just kind of hand drew the line, like right there is a pretty good point to be the top of the arch. And then I'll go, let's just say 1/4 inch. I could do something a little bit less, but that would be now like the thickness of the little bar thing I put in there, a little, curvy, almost cylinder shape, right? And then if this is going to curve, and I'll just freehand it for now. Bring my ruler back over. And be like, yeah, you know what? It actually lines up pretty good with being, like not really 1/2 inch and not really 3/4 inch, but 1/8 an inch above a 1/2 inch, which, is actually 5/8. Okay. So if I put the notch right at 5/8, yeah, there we go. Okay. And then above it, we're going to go with we'll go with 7/8. Okay. So from here to here it was 5/8. From here to here it was 7/8. Again, there's just measurements I chose. So again, then this one was 7/8 from there to the bottom, 5/8 from there to the bottom. This was an inch, and then this was like 3/4 of an inch from the. So see, 3/4 of an inch from from 0, and then this is an inch. And so then same thing. It lets me now draw my curve because I just plotted out some points. And then I'd have to do the same thing. I'd have to come up, just like I did here where I came up 5/8 and then 7/8. I'd have to come up 5/8 and then come up 7/8 and put a little notch. Same thing on this side, 5/8 and then 7/8, and then come up an inch, and then 3/4 inch, and so on for all of them. And again, that's just what I came up with from my design, because my design looked like that. You're gonna make your own design, so you want to try to line things up as much as possible. And remember, don't freehand this too much. There's some things you can freehand. Like definitely when you go to do the texture, you can freehand things, but it does take time. But use your ruler and put little markers, so that way even again, I am sort of freehanding this curve here, but it's a lot easier for me to draw because I was able to put little dots or dashes or little notches there to let me know where to go. Okay. But I would draw all your shapes in pencil, just regular graphite. And then when you get all those done, go back and fill everything in with pen and marker. So, I'd probably outline this with pen first, and then I'd fill it in with marker, and just be real careful, don't go past the lines. Again, outline it with pen, fill it in with marker, outline pen, fill in marker. Same thing here, I'd outline it with pen. So, if you have some kind of circle template or compass, that makes it a lot easier. But if not, just freehand it really carefully and then fill it in. And then stuff like this, like I would have to outline these lines with pen. I'd have to outline these lines with pen, and all the other ones I'd put in. Okay, all those are the curvy ones. And then from there, you know, sometimes students want to start drawing the texture in with pencil to see how it looks. And that's okay. So you can, you know, whatever kind of marks you're doing, if they're crosshatches, scribbles, you know, you can come up, you can even just Google textures and you'll come up with all kinds of really cool ideas. You know, and this is going to work similar to the, you know, the other project where you had to use words, right? The closer you put your lines together, the darker it looks. The more you space them apart, they look lighter. You know, if you have like a thicker pen versus like a thinner pen, thicker line's gonna look darker, a thinner line's gonna look closer. Okay, it's the same idea. So when you do your textures, that's how you can get different shades of gray. You can have things kind of, you know, transition from darker to lighter or lighter to darker. But again, so if you feel more comfortable kind of filling in some of the texture with pencil first, that's fine. But most students find like once they kind of get the hang of it, you can actually do the, you know, after you've done all your outlines and you've filled in everything that's supposed to be like pitch black, you fill those in. When you start doing textures, you can most often just kind of draw them with a pen. And the reason I say that is that if you start it with pencil and then you try to go over it with pen, now you're kind of doing that twice. And doing the texture can take a lot more work. Okay, so you definitely want to draw the major shapes in pencil first and then outline them with pen and then fill them in with a marker after. But just because you need, you know, really straight, clean lines. But with the textures, there's a little more room for error. And then again, trying to draw the textures twice, one time in pencil and then going back over it with pen a second time, that's a lot of work. Okay, so texture, I would, you know, once you get the hang of it, I would try to just do that with pen. Big shapes, outline them with, you know, draw them in graphite first, and then outline them with your pens, you know, second. Now remember, you're only focusing on, so you got to do sketches, of course, but then you go to do your, you know, final finished product one. Again, drawing paper's fine. I kind of recommend using bristle board. So if you have like a little leftover piece of bristle board, you know, that's what I would use. And again, you know, you only need one finished square. So you don't have to draw this multiple times. Nobody's gonna make you do that. Focus on making that one finished, clean, perfect looking square. And then what you can do is you can just let the copy machine or, you know, your scanner and printer do the rest of it for you. Okay, so focus on making one really clean, finished drawing, a really good design, and then just make copies, print them out, cut them out with your scissors, and then, you know, line them up and glue them down on a, you know, sheet of bristle board. Use your rubber cement and rubber cement pickup to clean up things, and then that's it. Okay, so really your finished hand-drawn product needs to only be 4x4. And again, the copy machine or the printer will do the rest of it for you.